Before we dive into the conversation with my next guest, I have a very special announcement to make. If you're a business owner, I have a feeling you started this journey because you want more than success. You want to live a truly abundant life. That means having a profitable business to fund the lifestyle you love and create a massive positive impact. It also means having thriving relationships with people who inspire and challenge you. Being mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy so you can have the energy to go after what you really want while truly enjoying the process. And being able to go on adventures that really make life worth living, rather than just sitting behind your computer all day. So if you would like to be able to have this kind of abundance in your life, then I've got just the right thing for you. The Abundance Accelerator Academy is my new membership community where we host 3 monthly calls that are focused on helping you improve your mindset, grow your business, and create the kind of freedom you want. There are also monthly community growth challenges that help you build new success habits which you will need to access greater levels of abundance. All of this and more for just $69 per month. If this sounds exciting to you, visit www.abundanceupgrade4.me to learn more. And now, back to the show with my inspiring guest. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Mario Lanzarotti. Welcome to the Self-Doubt Solution. Today, I have the honor of interviewing my friend Andrew McDowell. Andy, as his friends call him, is an engineer by trade and a creative by nature. I love that. He spent 22 years with the Boeing Company, where he always felt more like a coach than a boss, which is very interesting, something we're going to look at. And in 2002, he began his journey of entrepreneurship within a corporation when he was asked to develop an Airspace Design Consulting business from scratch that would serve the global government market. This is super exciting, Andy. And he also has a bachelor's degree from Georgia Tech in electrical engineering and master's degree in computer information systems. My head is already spinning. And naturally, his aviation work took him all over the world and enabled him to work with high-profile projects, such as, and this is super cool, preparing the Beijing and Sochi airports for their respective Olympic Games. And also, Andy is the CEO of Generate Your Value LLC, and Andy is all about helping people generate their value in the world and spread it in a way that is concise, powerful, and effective. Andy, welcome to the show, my friend.
Great to be with you, Marius. Thank you so much for the invite and an opportunity to have a great conversation today.
You got it, my friend. I'm excited. Andy, tell our friends who are listening in, what is it that you do? Because, you have such a diverse background and such a cool backstory. What is it that you're up to in the world today?
Well, I'd like to answer your question by statements I like to give to people when they go to dinner parties, right? So you go to a dinner party and meet new people, and somebody approaches you and says, "Hi, my name's Sally. What's your name?" And you tell the name, and then they say, "Well, what do you do?" And what is our typical answer? Our typical answer is, "I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a project manager, I'm a housewife," whatever. We tend to go straight to the career. And I like to mix it up a little bit and say, I change people's lives. And they sit there for a second and go, "Ooh, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting an answer. What do you mean you change people's lives?" And they say, "Well, I like to work on people's mindsets. I like to work on their thoughts about themselves. I like to work on improving their leadership skills so that they could do the same for others within their team. If they're in a business environment or even in a nonprofit environment, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, that's what I do. I have a title, life/leadership/small business coach, but the reality is I do what I do because I want to change people's lives for the better, to the point where they live a life and have a journey of life that's full of joy, happiness, and success in their life.
I love that. And I'm so with you on that journey. And I'm so happy that you touch base on these things, especially on the point of journey. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs and business leaders, they like to talk about their journey, but they're actually not living their life as if it was a journey. They're more living their life like it's a go from A to B kind of thing. And once you're at B, you can relax. But all the thing that's in between, that's just, you don't want to talk about that stuff. So what does that look like for you when someone works with you, when you talk about the journey?
So my favorite thing is to go to the analogy of be to have. So if you watch a lot of Hollywood movies, we think success looks like do have be. I do these things, which then allow me to have these things in my life, which is typically the Ferrari, Lamborghini, and the 5-bedroom house and celebrity status and all these type things. And then I get to be a certain way in the world because I did these things and I now have these things, which then gives me a certain status in society, and I get to be that way. And I try to work with my clients to say, no, the true order that brings true joy and happiness in life is the be, do, have. So I'm going to be a certain way every day in my life, live my life in a certain way with certain values, certain ways of being, just being present in life. And then I'm going to go do things that align with my being, which is the entrepreneurial journey and what business you choose and how you choose to lead and grow your business. And then I get to have joy and happiness and success in my life as an outcome of a certain being and an alignment of the doing with the being in life. And then that becomes the journey, because guess what? While you're doing all the doings and eventually have the havings, you're getting to be a certain way in life, which is a choice, is joy and happiness in the present moment. And you get to be that way through that whole journey, as opposed to seeing the being as an outcome and I have to go do all these things and have all these things before I get to achieve it. And it ends up being a journey in life that is so much fuller. If you can have that mindset and that type of journey in life going forward.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm so with you on that. And I want to ask you, Andy, you used a lot of, let's call it buzzwords, such as being present. And as entrepreneurs, many of us, we are going through our days from one task list to another. Done, 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 done. Okay, now get to feel good, get to relax a little bit, maybe next. So what does it actually look like for someone who runs his or her own business to be present in the daily tasks?
Well, tasks tend to be actionable. Check off. It's almost transactional, right? I'm going to do all these transactions. I'm going to get Sally to do this and Joe to do this, and I'm going to do these things, and it's transaction. And then at the end of the day, we can be happy about these transactions. And what's not present in any of that last few sentences I just said is the whole spiritual, emotional piece of it. So once again, how are we doing that? Yeah, we did transactions. You did this, I did this, she did this, and we got these things accomplished. And it's transactional, it's actionable. Some would even say it's masculine from that perspective. But where's the how? Where is that? How did we do this? How were we present in the moment? Were we concerned about how others were doing in the moment? Was there empathy present? Was there love present? Was there, or was it just the cracking of the whip? It's all transactional, it's all actionable, it's all, masculine in nature, and we're just checking off the transactional lists. And yes, we can be proud of those accomplishments, but at the end of the day, there are pieces missing from the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with, what I heard you saying, that is becoming conscious of the actions that you're taking instead of just being in the motion and ticking it off, and actually feeling into it and saying, how am I feeling when I send out that email? How am I feeling when I made that proposal? How am I feeling when I did that pitch? Was
And
I
how are others feeling?
Yes,
Do they feel
very good.
included in it? Do they feel
Mm,
respected? Do they feel safe? Do they feel loved? Do they feel included in all of that? Or is it you're doing what you're doing behind closed doors in your manager's office, and they're sitting in their cubicles doing what they're doing, and it's all just transactional and in nature, and there's no engagement, there's no bonding, there's no inclusion, there's no uh, respect or feeling
yeah,
respected. When we
yeah,
say number one reason that people leave their jobs is because of the relationship with the manager, well, that has a lot to do with the how. How do they feel? How do they feel included? Do they feel like their opinion matters,
right.
or their skills matter, or anything matters in the eyes of the supervisor in terms of what's being accomplished?
Yeah, yeah.
That's all part of human need.
Mm. I like that you are expanding this idea of being present, not just to yourself, but also being present to how other people are feeling, and making it a much more inclusive experience. And knowing that you have a 22-year background in working in corporate America and in a company that's called Boeing, what was it like for you working there in terms of presence? Because you decided at some point to become an entrepreneur. So I'm curious, where was it when you were working in a corporate company?
Well, before I answer, I have to put the caveat that I
Mhm.
managed a remote office. So I wasn't in Boeing headquarters. I wasn't in my division's headquarters. My supervisor was always remote from that perspective. So having inclusion had its challenges, just from the nature of not being physically around
Right.
a lot of decision makers and so forth. I was sort of having to uh, build my own team and concentrating a lot on what my team was doing and the culture for our office and so forth, and then hoping that that sort of fits into the culture that's at
Yeah.
headquarters, because we didn't get a lot of visitors. We were a strategic business. We weren't a big money making business. We were strategic in that what we did enabled a lot more money to be made in other divisions within Boeing. So never really felt included.
Mm.
Uh, and it was hampered by the fact that we were a remote office.
Yeah.
They often every year you could count on the conversation about, well, we want to move your team to Denver, which was divisional headquarters. And I always said, that's fine. You'll get me, but you may not get anybody else, because they're
Mm.
in Atlanta for a reason. And Denver and Atlanta are very different dynamics from a weather perspective, from a cost of living perspective and so forth, a way of life perspective. And so just put in the plan, we're going to have to take 2 or 3 years to rebuild.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, then sign me up. I'm ready to go. Just want you to know that's what the, the plan's going to have to incorporate.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that comes up for me is, you mentioned the struggle with feeling not being included. And now, when we're looking at the post-COVID world, it seems like many, many people are still working from home. I myself have been working from my home for many years now, and I really thrive in that environment. I love it. And yet at the same time, there are a lot of people, especially the solo entrepreneurs, that struggle with things like loneliness. Have you ever faced these struggles yourself? on your solopreneur journey?
Oh, absolutely. I've I've found times like, all right, I really should be eating lunch at home for a number of reasons, but I'm going to go out and grab some lunch just because I want to get out of these four walls,
Yeah.
be around people. I'm an extrovert by nature, so I find at times I have to get out of the house just to have that. At the very least, be surrounded by other people. I may not engage with anybody, but just to feel like I'm part of the world, so
Yeah.
to speak, as opposed to just sitting in my home by myself. So it definitely is an issue, particularly for somebody like myself that's not married, kids are out of the house. Um, living by yourself, it's even more of an issue as opposed to having been married and have
Right.
somebody else in the household with me.
Yeah. So, I recently gave a TEDx talk, and in that I talked about loneliness being a major driver for self-doubt. And
Mhm.
I'd be curious to know, have you noticed, some of the let's call it the dark sides of working for yourself, working by yourself, and how that affects your business?
At times, I don't feel like it's a major issue for me.
Mhm.
Um, Given my age, and I know my capabilities, and um, I know my growth mindset, and almost everything that I've accomplished in my life, I've accomplished on my own. So there's a lot of confidence
Yeah.
in myself around, and I've sort of learned through the years, and I had to learn this to have a joyful life because I was a big worrier, I was a big overthinker, in my teenage 20-year-old time frames, and had a lot of self-doubt. And it wasn't until became more introspective and changed I call it changing the tapes in my head that I was playing to
Hmm.
myself, about myself, that things started to change. So I can see where that could be a major issue for somebody, particularly those overthinkers out there that always go for the worst case scenario when they're looking at a particular situation. I've learned that I'm not going to worry about something until it shows up. I'm not going to live in this make believe land, imagining all these possibilities of bad things that can happen in a situation. I'm not going to even think about that till it actually shows up, and then I'm going to get into action to do something about it at that point. But I'm not going to sit here and overthink things.
Yeah. That's a great point, because quite frankly, there are a lot of people that struggle with overthinking and
Hmm.
marinating the possibilities of what could go wrong. And you mentioned something very interesting. You said changing the tape. I like that. So it sounds very simple. How do you do it though? What was your strategy to change the tape and to stop the overthinking and move into action?
It for me, it's a muscle. It takes practice. It's not going to change overnight. It's about, in the very beginning, forcing yourself to do it until eventually it just becomes a habit, and it's just natural for yourself. For me, I would take affirmations, write them out on a piece of paper, and I put them on my bathroom mirror. I put it somewhere on the refrigerator, areas that I was visiting quite a bit at home. I would put this list of affirmations and put it up there with a magnet or piece of tape or whatever by nature, so that they were always hitting me.
Yeah.
And I would always pick one out of a list and repeat it in my head when I was at that moment at the refrigerator. Then I might go upstairs to the bathroom mirror and pick another one out of the list and say that to myself, and just did that for a week or two till it became much more of a habit, and I started
Hmm.
believing the words that were actually ringing in my head,
Yeah.
and looking for sort of behaviors or experiences in the day that would reinforce reinforce that because I started changing my behaviors of the words that came out of my mouth because of those affirmations that I was saying inside my head. And at the end of the day, sort of patting myself on the back for that changed behavior.
Yeah.
Because of the difference of the tapes that were being said in my
Right.
head.
Right. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think affirmations are a powerful thing. And you were talking about the muscle, how it's training your mind over and over and over again. And then you mentioned some of those behaviors that shifted. What would you say was the result of you deciding to change your thinking? What was like a tangible thing that started to shift in your life that then was testimony to a new, as you call it, a new tape in your mind?
Well, it's being able just to go up to a stranger at a party and introduce yourself and
Huh.
shake their hand and have a conversation, as opposed to being a fly in the wall in the corner of the, you make a beeline for the drink area, get yourself a drink, and then just go sit in the corner and hope that somebody would come up and say hi to you and have a conversation or whatever. And now
Right.
it's more of, well, if that's what I want for myself, then I'm going to go do something about it, as opposed to hoping that somebody would start that process. I'm going to go start that process. And if the conversation doesn't go well or isn't what you want to be, that's fine. Just graciously exit that and go find somebody else with the hope that, yeah, maybe this will be a better conversation. And you just
Right.
keep working your way through the party. I mean, that would be probably the most tangible example I could give you.
Yeah. Beautiful. So there's a direct correlation between you changing the tape in your mind and then feeling more confident and then actually showing up differently in front of other people. And as you say, rather than wait for the opportunity to just appear, you created the opportunity. And I find this is one of the things that is testimony to the power of changing your mindset. It has a direct correlation to you becoming more successful in life. And if as a solo entrepreneur, many of us, we rely on creating opportunities ourselves. And many that don't achieve the success that they desire, they don't do so because they don't put themselves out there. And here is Andy telling us that when you decide to change the tape in your mind, you are becoming the person who's in charge of the opportunities you create.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's how you generate your value. That's the name of my company is, if you're going to generate value, you have to create that opportunity for yourself. And it's half of the equation, right? In a conversation between two people, you're half of the equation. So the part that you control is you. So I'm going to create an opportunity for a great conversation. It may not realize. That's okay.
Yeah.
But it's never going to have an opportunity to grow into that if you don't show up, if you don't, with what's in your control is to walk up and introduce yourself and be open, be present in that opportunity for a great conversation. And who knows what that outcome could be.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't attach yourself to the outcome, it's just that I just want to create an opportunity and see where it goes.
Yeah. And that's so big, this what you just said about not attaching yourself to the outcome, because one, we cannot control the outcome. It's this illusion that we entertain. It's like, yeah, I'm setting a goal for 10K month, 20K month, 30K month. That's my goal. And then, we throw ourselves towards that goal. And then at some point we realize, oh, I'm not on track to achieving the goal, but it's all based in this illusion of I can actually control achieving the goal. Whereas, as you say, if you let go of the outcome and you just say, I'm going to dedicate myself to the process, the magic starts to happen. And that's when the success starts to appear. So I love what you said here.
Yeah. So I just had this conversation with, I call it my peer-to-peer group. It's a mastermind-like group. We typically pick a topic of the day, talk around the table, so to speak. And we were talking about this attachment to outcome and control. And when you have such a tight grip on the outcome and you want to be so controlling to make sure that it happens, you start to create an environment where you might miss an opportunity for something even bigger than what
Mm.
your outcome that you have in your mind could be. Somebody could have a really great idea around the table that would take your idea to the next level, but you're so holding on to the control of this outcome that you have in your mind, and you're forcing the conversation and you're creating an environment that you want it to be a point A to point B in a straight line, that you're not allowing or creating an environment where that person could throw that idea on the table. That could be a, kind of mind-blowing thing that all of a sudden takes your idea to 2 times, 3 times, 10 times what you were thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the environment is not there because you're controlling it so much that you're not going to allow that ace of spades, so to speak, to be thrown on the table. That could just take it to the next level. And so
Yeah.
why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, why do you think? Why do you think people do it?
Fear. We talked a lot about it in the group. What is the underlying fear? So I'm a big love versus fear guy. So this is your behavior. You're holding on, holding on, holding on, controlling. You want this specific outcome, but why? Why do you want this specific outcome?
Yeah.
What fear do you have? You have some kind of fear that says if it turns out to be something different, then it's all going to be bad.
Right.
You're not allowing for even something better to show up.
Yeah.
From that perspective, you're not even thinking that that's a possibility. It's all just fear, 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 fear.
Before we continue the conversation with my inspiring guest, I have a very special announcement to make. If you're a business owner, I have a feeling you started this journey because you want more than just success. You want to live a truly abundant life. That means having a profitable business to fund the lifestyle you love and create a massive positive impact. It also means having thriving relationships with people who inspire and challenge you. Being mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy so you can have the energy to go after what you really want while truly enjoying the process. And being able to go on adventures that really make life worth living rather than just sitting behind your computer all day. So if you would like to be able to have this kind of abundance in your life, then I've just got the right thing for you. The Abundance Accelerator Academy is my new membership community where we host 3 monthly coaching calls that are focused on helping you improve your mindset, grow your business, and create the kind of freedom you want. There are also fun monthly community growth challenges that help you build new success habits which you will need to access greater levels of abundance. All of this and more for just $69 per month. If this sounds exciting to you, visit www.abundanceupgrade4.me to learn more. And now, back to the show with my inspiring guest. Yep. Yep. Talking about the journey and how you're actually sabotaging your own ability to enjoy the journey because you're just rushing from A to B all the time. And I remember you and I, we had a conversation before this podcast interview, and you and I were talking about masculinity and femininity. And I would love to open this conversation up to our listeners and viewers because I think there is a vast amount of possibility that so many business owners and entrepreneurs don't tap into simply because they don't even understand what's going on. So, Andy, would you mind sharing with us a little bit about the dynamic between masculinity, femininity? What is it, and how does that show up in an entrepreneur's life?
Well, why don't we go back to that be, do, have model? So The nature of masculinity is about the do. It's about the mission. It's about the purpose. It's about action. Are words or qualities that describe masculinity, and have through the ages. Whereas femininity is more about the being. It's about the receiving. It's about the openness. It's about the being. The earth is a feminine quality.
Yeah.
It's creation. It's where life gets created through femininity. I think all, maybe wrong in this, but I think but a few handful of species in the world, it's the birth, the creation of another entity in that species comes from the feminine side. I think
Yeah.
seahorses are different. There may be a handful of species that the male can do it. But anyway, um, so even going back to the doing those actionable items in your question, right? And why I brought up, some would say it's even masculinity, is because it's the do. And business is a lot of doing.
Yeah.
You've got tasks and processes and things that have to be done to produce your product and service. So by nature, business is masculine quality because it's the doing. But I think we're finding in this day and age, through layoffs and uh, people are always the first to go. They're the most expensive item in a company and so forth, that with the rising ranks or numbers of women that are coming into business, that we're starting to see the potential for a balancing.
Mm.
Um, I get a little bit scared when I talk to ladies that are in business and in the corporate world, and they feel like they have to keep up with the men. They feel like they have to be very masculine in nature and doing their
Yeah.
job and so forth. And then they have problems going back home because they're still in that masculine mode, when
Right.
what's attractive to the husband at home is the feminine side. And
Right.
so um, we both have masculinity and femininity in ourselves. It's just that our core is different. For a man, the core is masculine. For the female, it's femininity. But um, go back to the muscles. You're going to find more strengths and more capability in yourself if you can strengthen the muscle of your non-core.
Mm.
So for men, that means trying to be more present, to build your emotional intelligence skills, um, and use that. Have it in your hip pocket, pull it out when you need it, when you're talking to an employee one-on-one about their performance, or in your relationship with your spouse. I could tell my wife wants to engage and has intimacy in our moment, so I'm going to pull my emotional intelligence skills out and use that to
Mhm.
create an emotional and intimate conversation with my spouse. That's what your wife is looking for. um, it was interesting. I did a presentation to an all women's business group and threw up a slide with the qualities, some descriptive words about masculinity and femininity. And I said, okay, I know a lot of you are married, but let's pretend you're back in the dating world. Um, Looking at the two lists of femininity and masculinity, what are your gotta haves in a guy? And the words they're all picking out was on the masculine side. It says, okay, so those are your requirements. In other words, if you can't check off those boxes on online dating scenario, whatever, then it's swipe left, right? Yeah, swipe left. Okay. You now have a bucket of a few men that fit all those categories. What makes one of those men stand out from all the rest? And they start picking out qualities on the feminine side.
Yep.
Right. So I think it's important, whether you're a man or a woman, to look at your non-core sides and what can I do to build that muscle and have that strength on that other side. I think you'll find the world more engaging for you. It opens up more. Your capability to find joy and happiness and success in your personal life and your business life uh, accelerates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I like to bring it up as a topic. And I agree with you. It's not something it's not talked about enough. It's the battle of the sexes. It's about the battle of the cores. And there's not enough conversation about the strengthening of the non-cores and how we can sort of come together and use each other's strengths to accomplish things in this world.
Yeah, I agree. And so many valuable things that you shared here. And one of them being, as you said, training your muscles to look at if you have a tendency to be stronger in the masculine, then explore what it would be like to strengthen your feminine side. And I think there's a fear in many of us towards the other energetic center, the masculine or the feminine. I see many men having a fear towards exploring their feminine side because they think, oh, that's going to make me gay, or that's going to make me weak. So there's all these stories with that. And on the opposite side, as women that are, like afraid to explore the masculine side because they go, oh, I don't want to be like a man. I don't want to be too much about the doing and the creating and the success. And ironically, now many of the clients that I work with, many of the female clients I work with, that lack the connection to their feminine side because they went very much into the male dominated capitalistic system where it's about creating results, it's about moving forward, it's about the mission and all of that. And so they start lacking that connection to their own feminine side. And I want to ask you, what would you say are like some simple yet powerful things that people can do to, let's start with the feminine, to explore their feminine side?
I first would say start with a mindset that it's a tool. What they're afraid of is that they're going to just be totally covered with femininity, that's going to be now become their core and so forth and so on. And that's not the case. What we're saying is when you get into certain situations or scenarios, you have a skill, for lack of a better word. You've developed that emotional muscle that you can relate to somebody and engage with somebody at an emotional level, to be vulnerable and say, yeah, I had a difficult day and this is how it made me feel.
Right.
And have that 5-10 minute conversation. And when that conversation is over, you take that tool and you put it back in your back pocket and you sit in your core.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about being totally emotional and just, having nothing but feminine qualities all the time. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is to have an ability to live in your core, but when you run into certain situations or scenarios where you need to have a connection, you need the emotional state, you need to be a little bit vulnerable to help the conversation, to help the relationship or whatever, you can do that. But it doesn't take away your essence. It doesn't take away your core. It's just a tool that's being used in that particular situation or environment that gives you a better outcome than just sitting in your core all the time.
Yeah. I think this is such a good one that you just brought up in saying a simple share. I call it a vulnerable share, where if someone asks you and you have a tendency to be more in your masculine, it's like, how are you and how was your day? Instead of just saying, yeah, good, or yeah, a little stressful, it's saying, let me feel into that. How was my day? Okay, I felt anxious today. I felt overwhelmed today. I felt inadequate. And for many people that I see doing this, they have a tendency to jump straight from the feminine into the masculine by doing one thing, by then saying one sentence, but it's okay because I got XYZ. So they're already creating a solution, a pathway to going back into the rational mind to say, yeah, just talking the way through it, when it's really about, here's what happened, here's how I feel about it, full stop. I don't need to tell you now that my strategy to change that or how that's okay or not bad. I just need to share how I feel, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. To be in that space, to be present, just to share what your feelings were, and just like you said, full stop, leave it right there.
Exactly. Andy, do you have any other things? You mentioned the sharing. Is there something else that you would recommend people who want to explore more of their feminine side?
Well, it's just the natural state of being. How are you with yourself? What is your state of being with yourself? So if you were to take 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes in a day by yourself and just sat there, what is your being like? Are you okay with the silence? Are you okay with the ping pong ball thoughts that are going through your head? Have you ever meditated? Those are all states of being, just being, and that's a feminine side. State of being, a state of openness, a state of invitation. So whether you're with, that might help you in a state of invitation and openness and being present in a conversation with somebody else to feel comfortable in doing that. I know tons of people just to sit still, to be with themselves for 20 minutes is just like a nightmare. Just a nightmare. They got to have the TV on, they got the music on, they got to be with other people. They just can't sit in quiet for 10, 15, 20 minutes and just be. So difficult for them. And I think you could accomplish a lot and sort of connect with your feminine side without even saying a word to anybody else. It's just going to be with myself and silent with my own thoughts and feelings for 20 minutes and connect with myself. Femininity is about connection. There's a reason why there's girls' nights out, and they're always very social and by nature, because in the femininity is about connection and relation with each other. As men, we tend to be the Marlboro man. We're out there on our horse with our cigarette, all by ourselves in the world and whatever, and that's our comfortable spot, right? Because it's by nature masculine, being mission and purpose. I'm on my horse, I'm watching the cows out in the mountains of Wyoming with my cigarette, and I'm on mission and I'm on purpose and I'm doing my thing, right? Whereas the feminine side, we're the community, we're the gatherers. When back in the caveman days, it was the women that would go out together and gather all the berries and fruits and things that they could find and bring it back for the whole community and share with each other and make sure this family or community was doing well. It's because it's inherently by nature in the femininity.
I love what you said about that, and it's so fitting. This whole polar opposite of men looking to be the lone wolf out in nature, and I got this all by myself. I figured this out, and what a simple, I call it, awareness check can do for you is miracles. I do this a lot in group settings when I coach more than 2 people. I ask them to simply check in and just close their eyes and to check in and say, how am I feeling, describing that in 3 words. And I've started seeing people cry just by doing that inquiry for the first time, because they literally never take the time to ask themselves. And especially now, it has become so easy because we live in this hyper pain avoidance world where there are distractions over distractions over distractions always available at any given moment. And you'll never find out what's truly underneath when you, like you said, don't take the time to sit in silence. And some of the best ideas that I've had in my whole life came from me just sitting. And quite frankly, many times I just ask for it. Just sit. I said, God, this is what I'm looking for. Help me. Show me the way. And many, many times the way is being revealed. But first, it requires to be in silence, to be with all of the things that are taking place inside of me.
Yeah, for me, they come in the shower.
Yeah.
But
Yes, I've heard.
once again, it's by myself in the shower with my own thoughts, and that's typically when the downloads, I call them, come to for me, for the creativity and the thoughts about either for my day or my life or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I think another point, where does the power exist in your life?
Mm,
Right? Is it inside here? If the power and influence in your life sits within yourself, then you have no problem sitting and just being with yourself for 20 minutes. But if you're so worried about what the rest of the world is doing and you put the power over your life outside yourself, then you're always looking outside yourself
yeah.
for everything. And that's where the distractions come into play, or the need to engage, where addictions come from, and so forth. That um, I wish there was a way we could change the world, that through the school system or parenting or
Hmm.
whatever, we could create an environment and culture in our homes and so forth, where we teach at a young age how to just be still.
Yeah.
Take 20 minutes to be still. I know childhood's about curiosity and creativity, and this is a new world, and this is all new for me, and I want to explore and so forth. And we need to advocate for that, but we can also advocate for just 20 minutes of being stillness in with yourself and your thoughts, and an ability to share your feelings for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I know for us men that would be
Hmm.
incredible.
Mhm. It does
Society
wonders.
doesn't say that. Society's nope.
No, because I think because at the core, it's also ironically, a dangerous idea to many of the systems that we have in place.
Hmm.
Because what happens all of a sudden when we sit in silence, and when, like you say, I talk about this a lot with my clients, I use the term externalizing your power. When you're looking for your environment to give you permission to feel a certain way. So, oh, you
Right.
made me feel this way. Oh, because you didn't do XYZ, because I don't have the money, because I don't have the solutions. That's why I feel this way. And
Hmm.
it's always living at the mercy of an external condition. Whereas when you sit in silence, you start to realize, wait a minute, that's just a story that I tell myself. And the story isn't even my invention. It's my mother's invention. Actually, it's my grandmother's. Oh, my great, great. And you start going back to like the dark ages where the story emerged. And then you find it within yourself. And what happens all of a sudden is you no longer, as you said, rely on these addictions. You no longer need to watch so much television. You
Hmm.
no longer need to smoke the cigarettes. You no longer need to go to McDonald's. You don't need all of those things. And well, what happens? That's business. So obviously, these companies lose influence and lose control. So I think, it becomes very challenging to find this insight when you are so engulfed in this external world. That's why I'm a big advocate for take time in nature. Go
Yes.
there. Be there, ideally, if you can, by yourself or with some people you trust that want to do the same thing, and just go out into nature. Don't go to nature and take your TV with you,
Hmm.
and your football games. That's fun as well, but try something else for some time. And I think you made a really, really valid point with that.
Yeah, it's particularly important for females. Being that the Earth is feminine in nature,
Yeah,
and the Earth is just it's just being,
yeah,
right.
I agree.
So um, women get a lot more. A walk in the woods for 20 minutes makes much more of an impact for women than it does for men. As men, we're going to go do that 20-minute walk, and we're going to think about, how can I conquer that mountain? How can I build a tree house here for my kid? It's all about action, action, act. I'm going to walk through the woods, and it's like, how do I conquer this earth? How do I get control
Hmm.
over it? It's about
Interesting.
mission and purpose. So it's not to say we don't get anything out of it. We just don't get as much, unless we've developed our feminine skills, and we can pull that tool out of our pocket and
Exactly.
just be out in the woods in our 20-minute walk, and just like sitting for 20 minutes and just being on the couch, just
Yeah.
being 20 minutes on a walk in the woods, which is feminine in nature. For a man, you can get a lot more out of it, if you've
Yeah.
built that muscle and have the right mindset about what this walk
Yeah.
is for.
Yeah.
It's not our core, it's not our nature, it's more work for us to be in that state than it is for women, but that doesn't mean that we can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, gentlemen, you heard Andy. When you go out into the woods, be aware that there's a part of you that wants to build a tree house and wants to climb the highest mountain. That's okay. Let that part be there and focus on the part that just enjoys what's around you and where you are in the nature. Andy, I got two more questions for you. One of them, my favorite question, which is, if you could choose to spend an hour of your time with anyone on earth, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oprah. It's
Hmm.
just an immediate answer. I'm an ENFJ. She's an ENFJ. I love what she's done with her career, what she tries to do with her platforms and so forth. And I just feel like a kindred spirit. So I would love to sit down and have dinner with her over an hour and just talk about life.
That's beautiful. You mentioned an EFG. What is an EFG?
ENFJ. So
ENFJ.
it's from the Myers-Briggs, what do you call it? A catalog or a structure
Yeah.
that looks at 4 qualities in humans. E is external, J is judgmental, F is feeling, and I can't remember what the N is for, but you can take a simple test and figure out what your 4 letters are, and it helps you to understand the way that you are in life.
Interesting. Is it similar to like human design?
It's not as, how would I describe it? It's much more surfacey than human
Gotcha.
design. It doesn't really get into your purpose, your the way that you were created like human
Right.
design is. It's much more about your nature and your personality uh, from that aspect.
Got
If
you.
you can go to, I think there's a website called www.16personalities.com. There's 16 combination of those. So each position has 2 letters. There's 4 positions. There's possibility of 2 letters in each. Each is a scale of something. So there's 16 possibilities, and that website you can take the test and
Great.
find out what your 4-letter combination is.
Well, thank you for sharing. All right, beautiful. We got one more question,
Mm-hmm.
and that is, if you had a magic cheat code that would allow you to 10x any area of your life within the next 6 to 12 months, what would it be and why?
Oh, 10x any part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So in my bio, it says I'm a very creative person by nature. So I'm a singer, I'm a guitar player, and I'm a photographer, and that's where I practice building my creative muscles to create a creative environment in my life. And so I think I would throw it over one of those, either the music or the photography, just to take it to the next level. A number of people said, you need to sell your photographs. I'm like, yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I got other things I need to accomplish first, right? And would love to be a member of a band that goes out on tour and just brings joy and happiness to people through music. So I think I would throw it over one of those areas.
I love it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in, touring the country, selling your photography and swinging to beautiful tunes that makes people dance, laugh,
Yeah.
and feel alive.
Well, I do it every Sunday in church, but we'd love to take it to a grander scale.
Well, I think that's a beautiful focus. Andy, Tell us, please, what is it that you have for anyone who would like to get a taste of Andy? What can you offer to our audience?
Yeah, so I like to do a free offering for folks, whether it's a Zoom call or if you're in Atlanta over a cup of coffee or beer, whatever it may be, just to have a free conversation to see how it is that I might be able to bring value to your life. Whether it's in your personal life or business life or whatever it may be. How can I help you find more joy and happiness and success in your life?
Amazing. And how can we find you?
At my website, www.generateyourvalue.com. I also have a podcast I do with a co-host called Generate Your Value. We're all on all the major platforms.
Amazing. Beautiful. All the links about how to find and connect with Andy are going to be in the show notes. Andy, thank you so much for making the time to be with us on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think there was a lot of value and actionable steps for our listeners.
Mhm.
And I look forward to having another conversation with you soon.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate the invite. Keep generating your value in this world, and I'm so happy that you're in my life.
Beautiful. Andy, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Self-Doubt Solution. I will see you on the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day.